Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The sun had just begun its descent, casting long shadows across the room as Nathan stood in front of his mirror. It was just another ordinary afternoon, but for Nathan, it felt like a turning point. His heart pounded in his chest as he stared at his reflection, his eyes widening with determination. "I'm tired of hiding," he muttered, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "I know who I am, and I'm not going to run from it anymore." With a deep inhale, he closed his eyes, steeling himself for the conversation ahead. He knew his parents wouldn't understand, but he was prepared to face their objections. It was time they saw him for who he truly was. Descending the stairs with purpose, he spotted his parents in the living room, engrossed in their respective novels. The gentle aroma of baking apple pie wafted from the kitchen, a comforting smell that usually calmed him, but today it did little to ease his nerves. His father, a sturdy man with a graying beard, looked up, his eyes curious.
"Something on your mind, Nathan?"
Nathan took a moment, gathering his courage.
"I need to talk to you and Mom. It's important."
His mother, a soft-spoken woman with kind eyes, marked her place in her book with a finger and set it down. "Of course, honey. What is it?" Taking a seat across from them, Nathan twisted his hands in his lap, his heart hammering. This was it. No going back now. I want to tell you something about myself, something I've been struggling with for a long time." His parents exchanged a glance, their faces unsure, but they remained silent, giving him the space to continue. "I don't feel right as a guy," he blurted out, the words rushing out in a torrent. "I mean, I know I was born male, but it doesn't feel right. I've always felt like I was supposed to be a girl." The room fell silent. Nathan held his breath, steeling himself for their reaction. His father was the first to speak, his voice cautious. "Are you sure, son? This is a big decision."
"I'm positive,"
Nathan replied, his voice steady, his eyes never wavering from his father's. "I've felt this way for as long as I can remember. I'm not confused, Dad. I know who I am." "But," his mother began, her voice full of concern.
"I'm old enough to make this decision, Mom,"
Nathan interrupted, his voice firm.
"I know it's not easy to understand, but this is who I am. I can't keep living a lie."
His parents shared a loaded look, their worry evident. The silence that followed hung heavy in the air. "We just want you to be sure, Nathan," his mother said at last. "This is a huge step, and we want you to be happy, but you don't agree," Nathan finished for her, his voice cracking slightly. "I know you don't understand, and that's okay. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm telling you because I want you to know the real me." His father ran a hand through his hair, his face creased with conflict. "We want what's best for you, Nathan. We're just worried about the challenges you'll face."
"I know," Nathan said softly, "and I appreciate your concern. But this is my life, and I have to live it as my true self. I can't keep pretending anymore." The weight of his words hung in the air, thick with emotion. "We'll always love you, no matter what," his mother said, her voice thick with unshed tears. "But we need time to process this, Nathan. It's a lot to take in." Nathan nodded, his own eyes glistening. "I know, and I respect that. I'm not asking you to embrace it right away, but I hope you'll try to understand." With a heavy heart, he rose from his seat, craving the sanctuary of his room. "I'm gonna go for a walk. I need some air." His parents nodded, their faces troubled, and Nathan turned and left, feeling the weight of their gaze on his back. As he strode through the park, the cool evening breeze did little to calm the storm within him.
His mind raced with a tumult of emotions: anger, frustration, hurt, all fueled by the fear that his parents' acceptance might forever be out of reach. "They'll come around," he whispered to himself, his voice laced with false conviction. "They have to." But as the days turned into weeks, their concerns showed no signs of abating. Their once open and loving home now felt heavy with unspoken words and restrained glances, as if his mere presence had become an unspoken reproach. One evening, as Nathan passed by the living room, he caught a snippet of their hushed conversation, his mother's pained voice filtering through. "I just can't understand it, Mark. Why can't he just be happy as he is?" His father's deep rumble was indistinct, but the words "time" and "phase" were audible enough to cause Nathan's steps to falter. He retreated to his room, his heart heavy, seeking solace in the one place he felt truly understood: the online community that had become his support system. Logging into his favorite forum, he poured his heart out to his new friends, who embraced his true self in a way his parents seemingly never could.
"They just don't get it,"
he typed, his fingers flying across the keyboard.
"I thought they'd come around, but they're still stuck in their old ways. It's like they don't even want to try to understand." Encouraging replies soon flooded in, a chorus of support that buoyed his spirits. "Stay strong, sis. They'll come around eventually. It takes time for some people to open their minds. You do you, girl. Don't let their ignorance bring you down. Parents can be stubborn, but they love you. Give them a chance to accept the real you, even if it takes baby steps." Their words lifted some of the weight from his shoulders, and he resolved to give his parents more time, no matter how painful their silence felt. Time, however, did little to assuage his parents' concerns. If anything, their worry seemed to deepen as they witnessed Nathan's gradual transformation. It began with subtle changes: the way he walked, the tilt of his head, the soft lilt that crept into his voice. He started shaving his legs and underarms, his skin soon becoming as smooth as silk. He experimented with different hairstyles, his once short hair now falling in gentle waves past his shoulders. And then came the clothes. At first it was just a shirt here, a pair of jeans there, borrowed from his sister when she wasn't home. But soon he began to assemble his own wardrobe, secretly ordering feminine garments online: soft blouses, flowing skirts, and form-fitting jeans that accentuated his curves. Each new addition to his wardrobe brought a surge of excitement, and he'd spend hours in front of the mirror, trying on different outfits, practicing his makeup, and styling his hair. "You look beautiful," he whispered to his reflection one afternoon, his heart soaring as he admired his image. The girl staring back at him. Amber. She was real, and she was beautiful. As Amber, he felt whole, like all the fragmented pieces of himself had finally come together. The name his parents had given him no longer fit, and he yearned for the day when they would call him by his true name. But as his joy and confidence as Amber grew, so did his parents' confusion and concern. They watched, silenced by their own uncertainty, as their son morphed into a stranger before their eyes. One afternoon, as Nathan descended the stairs in a simple sundress, his father's eyebrows furrowed in confusion. "Nathan, we need to talk." Nathan's heart sank, but he lifted his chin, determined to face their questions head on. "I know this is hard for you, Dad, but this is who I am." "But why the dress?" his father asked, his voice laced with a mixture of curiosity and discomfort. "You're not even leaving the house." Nathan took a steadying breath. "Because it feels right, Dad. I feel more like myself when I dress this way. It's not a costume. It's an expression of who I am inside." His father ran a hand over his face,
his eyes filled with a mix of emotions. "I'm trying to understand, son. I really am. But this is a lot to take in." "I know, Dad," Nathan replied softly. "And I appreciate your effort. Just please try to accept that this is who I am. I'm not trying to be someone I'm not." A heavy silence followed, the air thick with unspoken words. His mother, who had been quietly observing from the kitchen, stepped forward, her eyes red-rimmed. "Your father and I have been doing some reading, Nathan, trying to educate ourselves." Nathan's heart skipped a beat, a spark of hope igniting within him. "Oh." She nodded, her eyes filled with a mixture of emotions. "We're trying to understand, honey. Really, we are. But it's not easy to just accept all of this." Nathan's spark of hope dimmed, but he pressed on, determined to keep the lines of communication open. "I know, Mom, and I appreciate that you're trying. It means a lot to me." A long beat passed, the only sound the ticking of the clock on the wall. "We love you, Nathan," his mother said at last, "and we support you, even if we don't fully understand. But please, be patient with us while we try to wrap our heads around all of this." Nathan's eyes glistened with unshed tears as he nodded, grateful for their tentative support, albeit laced with confusion. "I will, Mom. Thank you." The weeks that followed were marked by incremental changes, both in Nathan's transformation and his parents' gradual acceptance. As they witnessed his unwavering conviction and unapologetic embrace of his true self, their initial resistance began to soften. They noticed the ways in which Amber's confidence and happiness blossomed, and though they still struggled to reconcile their son's metamorphosis, their love for him remained unwavering. One evening, as Nathan entered the kitchen, his mother looked up from chopping vegetables, her eyes warm. "You look nice tonight, honey."
"That color suits you."
Nathan's heart leaped at the compliment, a small bud of joy unfurling within him.
"Thanks, Mom."
His father, reading the paper at the table, lowered it, his eyes roving over Nathan's outfit, a floral blouse tucked into a pair of white jeans. "Yeah, it does. Very summery." Nathan smiled, feeling their tentative support like a warm embrace. "Thanks, Dad." His mother offered him a slice of apple pie, her hands fluttering as she fussed over him. "Eat up, dear. You're too thin." The simple domestic scene, so ordinary for most families, felt monumental to Nathan, and he savored the sweetness of the pie, relishing the comfort it brought. As the days turned into weeks and months, their support continued to grow. Each small gesture, a touch on the shoulder, a compliment, a simple question about his day, weaving a new dynamic within their family. And then came the day when Nathan, now fully and beautifully Amber, stood before her mirror, her heart filled with a different sort of trepidation. It was her 18th birthday, a milestone she'd long anticipated, and she prepared to embark on her first night out as her true self. "You look gorgeous, honey," her mother said, entering the room and taking in Amber's ensemble, a stylish black dress that accentuated her curves, her hair cascading in loose curls past her shoulders. Amber's smile lit up the room. "Thanks, Mom. She paused, swallowing the nervous lump in her throat. "I really appreciate everything, your support. It means the world to me." Her mother's eyes shone with unshed tears as she stepped forward, adjusting Amber's necklace, her touch gentle. "We're just glad to see you happy, honey." Her father appeared in the doorway, his eyes widening slightly as he took in her attire.
"Well, don't you look—"
He cleared his throat, searching for the right words.
"Stunning. Absolutely stunning, Amber."
The name, spoken by her father for the first time, sent a jolt of joy through her, and she beamed, her heart full to bursting. "Thanks, Dad." Her parents shared a look, their faces soft with love and acceptance, and Amber felt a weight lift from her shoulders, knowing she had their blessing as she stepped into the world as her true self. As she drove to the club, her heart raced with a melange of emotions: excitement, nervousness, and sheer happiness. But it was the latter that eclipsed the rest as she walked into the dimly lit room, the pulsing music and vibrant lights enveloping her. Here, she felt truly free, and as she danced, lost in the music, she knew without a doubt that she was exactly where she was meant to be. "You look amazing, girl," a fellow clubber shouted over the music, their eyes sparkling with admiration. Amber's smile stretched from ear to ear as she threw her hands in the air, feeling the music pulse through her veins. "Thanks." And in that moment, surrounded by acceptance and understanding, she knew that everything she'd been through had been worth it. She was Amber, and she was finally, unequivocally, happy. The bass thumped through Amber's body as she lost herself in the music, her hips swaying to the beat. The club was packed, the air thick with the scent of sweat and alcohol, but she didn't care. For the first time in her life, she felt truly free. As the song ended, she made her way to the bar, her heart still racing with exhilaration. The bartender, a handsome man with a friendly smile, leaned in to take her order. "What can I get for you? Beautiful?" he asked, his eyes twinkling. Amber felt a blush creep into her cheeks. "A gin and tonic, please." As he prepared her drink, she glanced around the club, taking in the diverse crowd. People of all genders and orientations mingled freely, their differences celebrated rather than shunned. It was a world away from the small, conservative town she'd grown up in. "Here you go," the bartender said, sliding her drink across the bar. "On the house." Amber's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Oh, thank you. That's very kind." He winked at her. "Anything for a pretty lady?" She took a sip of her drink, the cool liquid soothing her parched throat. As she set the glass down, she noticed a group of girls on the dance floor, their moves synchronized and their laughter infectious. One of them, a tall blonde with a dazzling smile, caught her eye and waved her over. Amber hesitated for a moment, but the girl's welcoming grin was impossible to resist. She made her way through the crowd, her heart pounding with a mix of nerves and excitement. As she reached the group, the blonde pulled her into a hug, her perfume sweet and intoxicating. "I'm Lexi!" she shouted over the music. "And these are my girls, Jenna and Mia." The other two girls, a petite brunette and a curvy redhead, smiled warmly at Amber. "I'm Amber," she replied, feeling a rush of belonging wash over her. "Well, Amber," Lexi said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Let's show these boys how it's done, shall we?" And with that, they launched into a new song, their bodies moving in perfect sync. Amber let the music take over, her worries and fears melting away as she lost herself in the moment. They danced for what felt like hours, the club's energy never waning. Amber felt a sense of camaraderie with her new friends, their acceptance and warmth a balm to her soul. As the night wound down, they exchanged numbers, promising to meet up again soon. Amber left the club with a spring in her step, her cheeks flushed with joy and her heart full of hope. The next few weeks passed in a blur of laughter, dancing, and newfound friendship. Amber and her new crew became inseparable, their bond forged in the fires of shared experience and understanding. They shopped together, trying on dresses and giggling over inside jokes. They had sleepovers, staying up late into the night, sharing their hopes and dreams and fears. and they danced, always finding their way back to the pulsing beat of the club, their refuge from the outside world. But even as Amber reveled in her new life, a small part of her yearned for something more, something official to cement her identity. She'd been living as Amber for months now, but her legal documents still bore the name and gender she'd been assigned at birth. She knew it was time to take the next step, to make her transition official in the eyes of the law, but the thought of navigating the legal system, of facing potential rejection or discrimination, filled her with trepidation. One evening, as she sat with Lexi in a cozy coffee shop, she broached the subject, her voice hesitant. "I've been thinking about legally changing my name and gender marker." Lexi's eyes widened, her face breaking into a grin. "Amber, that's amazing! I'm so proud of you." Amber felt a rush of relief at her friend's support. "I'm just worried about the process, you know? What if they don't accept me?" Lexi reached across the table, squeezing Amber's hand. "Hey, you've got this, and you've got us. We'll be with you every step of the way." Amber's eyes misted over, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you, Lex. That means everything to me." The next day, armed with Lexi's encouragement and a folder full of research, Amber made her way to the courthouse, her stomach a knot of nerves. The clerk, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, greeted her warmly. "How can I help you, dear?" Amber took a deep breath, steeling herself. "I'd like to file for a legal name and gender marker change." The woman's face softened with understanding. "Of course. Let me get you the necessary forms." As Amber filled out the paperwork, her hand shook slightly, the gravity of the moment not lost on her. This was it, the final step in her journey to becoming her true self. She double-checked each line, ensuring everything was in order, before handing the forms back to the clerk. The woman scanned them quickly, her face impassive. "Everything looks to be in order," she said at last, a smile breaking across her face. "Congratulations, Amber. Your petition will be filed immediately." Amber's heart leapt with joy, tears springing to her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you so much." The clerk reached across the counter, patting Amber's hand. "You're welcome, dear, and good luck." Amber left the courthouse in a daze, her heart soaring with elation. She'd done it, taken the final step in her transition. She was, officially, legally, Amber. She couldn't wait to share the news with her friends, but there was one more thing she needed to do first. With trembling fingers, she dialed her parents' number, her breath catching in her throat as it rang. "Hello?" Her mother's voice came through the line, warm and familiar. "Mom?" Amber said, her voice wavering slightly. "It's me. I have some news." There was a beat of silence, then her mother's voice, filled with concern. "Is everything okay, honey?" Amber took a deep breath, a smile spreading across her face. "Everything's wonderful, Mom. I just filed for my legal name and gender marker change. It's official. I'm Amber in every way that matters." The line went quiet for a moment. Then her mother's voice came through, thick with emotion. "Oh, Amber, my beautiful girl. I'm so proud of you." Amber's eyes filled with tears, her heart bursting with love and gratitude. "Thanks, Mom. That means everything to me." Her mother sniffled, her voice wavering. "Your father and I, we're so sorry it took us so long to understand. But we see you now, Amber. We see the amazing woman you've become, and we couldn't be more proud." Amber let out a shaky breath, the weight of years of struggle and fear lifting from her shoulders. "I love you both so much." "We love you too, honey."
More than anything,
They talked for a while longer, Amber filling her parents in on her life, her friends, her hopes for the future. When she finally hung up, her heart was full to bursting, the love and acceptance of her family washing over her like a warm embrace. She met up with her friends that night, their faces lighting up as she shared her news. They hugged her tightly, their eyes shining with pride and joy. "We need to celebrate!" Lexi declared, her grin infectious. "Tonight we dance for Amber, the bravest, most beautiful girl we know." And so they did, losing themselves in the music, their laughter ringing out over the pulsing beat. Amber danced with abandon, her heart lighter than it had ever been. She was Amber, wholly and completely. And surrounded by the love and acceptance of her friends and family, she knew she could face anything the world threw her way. As the night wore on, the girls made their way outside, the cool night air a balm to their flushed skin. They walked arm in arm, their heels clicking on the pavement, their voices rising and falling in animated chatter. Amber hung back for a moment, her eyes drawn to the stars twinkling overhead. She thought back to all the nights she'd spent gazing up at that same sky, dreaming of a different life, a different body, a different name. And now, here she was, living that dream. It hadn't been easy, and there had been moments when she'd wanted to give up, to retreat back into the safety of the familiar. But she'd pushed through, fought for her truth, and emerged on the other side, stronger and more herself than ever before. She felt a hand slip into hers and looked over to see Lexi, her face soft with understanding. "You did it, babe. You're officially 100% Amber." Amber squeezed her hand, a smile spreading across her face. "I couldn't have done it without you, Lex. Without all of you. Your friendship, your support. It means everything to me." Lexi pulled her into a hug, her voice muffled against Amber's hair. "We love you, Amber, and we're so damn proud of you." The other girls joined in, their arms wrapping around Amber in a tight embrace. She felt their love, their acceptance, their unwavering support, and her heart swelled with gratitude. They stayed like that for a long moment, holding each other under the stars, a family bound not by blood, but by something deeper, something unbreakable. When they finally pulled apart, Amber's cheeks were wet with tears, but her smile was radiant. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "For everything." Lexi grinned, wiping a tear from her own cheek. "Anytime, babe. Now what do you say we head back to my place for a good old-fashioned slumber party? We can paint each other's nails, braid each other's hair, and gossip about boys. Or girls. Whatever floats your boat." Amber laughed, the sound bright and joyful in the night air. "That sounds perfect." And so they walked on, their arms linked, their laughter echoing through the streets. Amber felt a sense of peace wash over her, a certainty that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she had the strength to face them, head on. She was Amber, a woman who had fought for her truth and won. And with her friends by her side and her family's love in her heart, she knew she could conquer anything. And then, one crisp autumn morning, a large envelope arrived in the mail, the return address from the courthouse. Amber's heart raced as she tore it open, her hands shaking slightly. Inside were her official documents, the ones that bore her true name and gender marker. She traced her fingers over the embossed letters, tears springing to her eyes. Amber Marie Johnson. Female. It was real. It was official. She was, in every legal and societal sense, the woman she'd always known herself to be. She couldn't wait to share the news with her parents. She drove to their house that afternoon, the documents clutched tightly to her chest, her heart pounding with anticipation. Her mother opened the door, her face breaking into a wide smile at the sight of her daughter. "Amber, honey, what a wonderful surprise!" Amber hugged her tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume. "Hi, Mom. Is Dad home? I have something to show you both." Her mother ushered her inside, calling out to her father. He emerged from his study, his face lighting up as he saw Amber. "There's my girl," he said, pulling her into a warm embrace. "To what do we owe this pleasure?" Amber took a deep breath, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I got my official documents in the mail today. My name change, my gender marker. It's all legal now." She handed them the envelope, watching as they pulled out the papers, their eyes scanning the text. Her mother's hand flew to her mouth, a soft gasp escaping her lips. "Oh, Amber," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "My beautiful, brave girl." Her father's eyes were misty as he looked up at her, his face filled with pride and love. "Congratulations, sweetheart. We're so incredibly proud of you." Amber let out a shaky laugh, the tears finally spilling down her cheeks. "I couldn't have done it without you. Your love, your support, it means everything to me." Her mother pulled her into another hug, her own tears mingling with Amber's. "We love you so much, honey, and we're so sorry it took us so long to understand. But we see you now, truly see you, and we couldn't be more proud to call you our daughter." Thanks for watching, my girlies. Be sure to check out Patreon for more.